enjoyed your book. Like I've been reading it, and let's get started. So I'm here with Emmanuel Kulu Jr., the author of Black Pharoah: Rise to Power. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm blessed to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Man, you have such an incredible book. I was reading the acknowledgments, and you were discussing your father being from Cameroon and your mom having 4 degrees. What was the importance of African culture in your household?
Man, my father, he really stressed to us about being not just an average black man here in this country. A lot of times here in America, we take for granted the freedom that we have in this country. The fact that you can go from absolutely nothing to something. And my father, he lived in Cameroon. He was a professional soccer player for the Indomitable Lions. And he realized one thing: when Cameroon, in certain countries in Africa, if you're poor, you're always going to be poor. And if you're middle class, there is no middle class in Africa. So it's either you're rich or you're poor. Either you're wealthy or you have nothing. And for him, he was an athlete. So that was his outlet to get to the United States. So he instilled in me, him and my mom both. My mom was an educator, and my father was one of those guys who was really strong on African history. As a kid, a lot of my African American peers would say things like, "Did y'all have monkeys in your backyard?" and things like that. And it'll be our own brothers and sisters. And I had to really educate and educate and educate. But it also came with a lot of pain. So in my household, it was African history, it was education, it was spirituality, and it was loving one another and being able to upbuild our community.
Right. And there is like so much stereotypical information and stuff, everything I think associated with Africa. Do you think that's in part due to like films?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why recently we have been sending out all types of query letters to try to get Black Pharaoh transformed into a film. We're currently working on the script right now as we speak. But we're just trying to get that done to be able to see Africans in great status, as they truly were the first civilization of all time. So films, yes. When you look at most films that have to do with ancient Egypt, you never see an African in the place position of a pharaoh. And it doesn't make sense how a Caucasian person has been put in the place of the pharaoh when they absolutely had nothing to do with an African civilization at that time.
Then that's a really great point. And I was reading the book. I love it because you see for the first time these black characters depicted in powerful roles, and you say that you grew up believing Egyptians were African, much like I did, which is a very contentious debate because somehow Egypt has culturally become associated with the Middle East because of its proximity, to that area, even though it's on the continent of Africa. A number of mainstream scholars even reject the idea that Egypt was a predominantly black civilization. You do a good job of using scholarly works to support your claims. In previous interviews, you talk about posting a book cover via social media. You received death threats and I guess racist comments and hate mails regarding the cover. Why all the pushback from people over something that has such a factual basis?
Well, racism, in order to control the people, you have to strip a people from their heritage. And Adolf Hitler said, if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. And that was one of the tactics that was used by some of these scholars that started in ancient Egypt. They just couldn't find it conceivable in their mind that Africans could have built the pyramids, could have built the Library of Imhotep or the Library of Alexander. They couldn't think that these were masters of astrologers, masters of mathematics, masters of science. They couldn't see that. Masters of writing, all these different things that Egypt had, they could not allow the fact that the Greeks, the Romans learned everything from the Egyptians. And if they were to say that they learned everything from African people, they would really empower those who were in slavery at the time, which were African American people and Africans abroad in the world who were facing oppression. And it has been an ongoing problem to make Africans feel as if they've done nothing and it contributed nothing to the history of humanity, and that's so far from the truth. So there, I mean, that's the long answer. You couldn't, they could not allow, scholars could not allow African people to rise up to remember who they were. That would be a big problem.
You talk about that you're not promoting an Afrocentric movement or racism. What was your take on Nick Cannon's controversial comments?
Well, Nick Cannon spoke on something, but he forgot who was paying his bills. He forgot who the power of being self-made. Being self-made is one of those things where you can say what you want to say, and you don't owe anybody any type of apologies when you're unapologetically black, as he was being. Also, again, you have to know who you're going into bed. These guys own the television company that you're talking about. So of course, this is going to be the result of what you're saying. And you don't have to be disrespectful when, as he went overboard when he said a few things that he said, we're better, they're not. When you say things like that, you're never going to be right. You're never going to be right in saying things. So when it comes to myself and not promoting any Afrocentric movement, my stepmother was a Caucasian woman. After my father and my mother divorced, my stepmother was an Italian woman. So diversity is a beautiful thing, my brother. But at the same time, recognizing and loving who you are, there's nothing wrong with that as well. So that's where I am. I love all cultures. I love all people. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're an evil person, you're an evil person. That just is what it is. It just has nothing to do with color. And I think Nick Cannon, he just went a little bit overboard and he kind of threw himself out the window because he forgot that who his partners were, who the people who helped him get where he was, those people he was talking about.
And in the book, I was really impressed with how well researched it was. And you talk about the royal bloodlines, to preserve purity, practicing incest, little details like that. That's actually something that really occurred.
Right, right. And these ancient Egyptian people, they wanted to keep their bloodline sacred, especially for their women. They would take other foreign wives from time to time, but those wives would not be the royal wife, so to speak. But they would never give away their women. Egyptian men were very proud men and very strict about keeping everything in the bloodline, even going as far as brother and sister. So that was something that I wanted to include in the book. There's a lot of history. Now, my book is listed as a historical fiction because it's about Tutmosis III and Hatshepsut, and there's a lot of things that I put together from history. So, and I just added that to the story. So, yeah, but it's actually an event. These people actually existed in time. I was really inspired by Shaka Zulu, 1986 Shaka Zulu film, and I was also inspired by the Black Panther movie. It helped me to realize that the world is ready for this. The world is ready to see Africa in its true form. But unfortunately for Black Panther, even though it was a great movie, a great mythological story, it's not true. It has nothing to connect us to our history. So I wanted to actually show the actual trueness behind the Black Pharaohs, behind ancient Egypt. And when I say the Black Pharaohs, all pharaohs were people of color. Okay, they were Black people. Let's not get that twisted. Um, why the book is titled Black Pharaoh is because Blackness meant completion. So when I'm saying I Black Pharaoh, that doesn't mean the Pharaoh's skin color is black. The Black Pharaoh means the Pharaoh of completion. Okay, just to break that down as well. And yes, he was a black man because the pharaohs were black.
Definitely. I can't wait to see this in film form. I think it's like it reminds me of films and stuff, everything like Gladiator. Black Panther is kind of like a combination of that, and I think it has a lot of things that contemporary audiences would really get into it because it's it has relationships and things of that nature too.
Right.
So it's well balanced. and stuff, everything, like where it's not just like a historical book, like, you know, where it's just like, you know, facts and stuff. Sometimes these historical fiction books, they're just loaded with like, you know, facts, and like you can't
Right.
remember, you know, if you read.
Right. Well, I mean, we got to forget. We can't forget, bro. We cannot forget that these were people. These were human beings, you know, and they did things that we do today. As you see, if you got that far in the book, you can see relationship issues. You can see family issues. You could see, you know, what a power struggle. You could see a lot of different things that happened in those times that even happen in this very day that we're living in. So I wanted to remind people that these ancient Egyptian people, as great as they were, as great as they were human beings. Okay. So let's include the human story inside of these books, because when you read a lot of ancient Egyptian stuff, like you said, it's just like, you know, these dudes was robots. No, they was people. They were people, and they had human problems just like everyone else, but they just handled their stuff in a royal and secret way.
Definitely. I, Black Pharaoh, Rise to Power, the author, Emmanuel Kulu Jr. Can you tell people your social media links and where people can buy the book?
Yes, you can buy the book on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, hardback, paperback. You also can get it on Pennant Publications. Shout out to Pennant Publications for, we sent this book to about 500 different publishers. And Pennant Publications had the confidence and the belief. And also they were diverse enough to say, you know what, let's take on this book, because they took on this book when I was in the heat of battle with many different scholars, many people debating me, saying these racist comments and things like that. And they said this could really be something big. The story's awesome, and it could be something big and can represent. Then we see what happened with this George Floyd situation. It really turned it up. So the awareness of knowing our history, of African people knowing their history, and also people all over the world knowing that Africans have contributed to the world is huge. So shout out to them. Also, my social media is I am underscore Kulu at on IG, and it's the same thing. I am underscore Kulu on Twitter. You also can find me at I Black Pharaoh on Instagram as well, and the same thing at I Black Pharaoh on Instagram, on Twitter as well. So I have two pages. I have the business page and a personal page. So if you're inquiring about myself or interviews or anything like that, you want to go to my personal one. For the I Black Pharaoh movement, you want to hit the I Black Pharaoh page up.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time, and I'll tag you on social media and stuff